So today we are discussing only IDD initially. Then, if time permits, we're going to read. So let's see. Yeah, Richa and Suman, you want to share something? As we discussed yesterday, you can just. Did you listen to the podcast, or how many of you have listened to the podcast? Baniji, did you listen to the podcast that has been
Ac-
shared?
Yesterday I was absent actually. I could not attend, and neither I listened
Oh,
to the podcast. Yeah.
oh, you were not there, or what? Okay, okay. I thought you were there yesterday.
Yeah,
Maybe in the
yesterday.
afternoon you were there, I guess, na, Suman?
Afternoon I was there. Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So that is how I got confused.
Yeah.
So I think it's me and Richa who are there from yesterday's then. Richa, you want to share something?
Hi, good morning. Um, yeah, I'll need 2 minutes. I'm just wrapping up something. I will need 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, no problem. So just wanting to ask, anyone went to the podcast that has been shared, Baniji? Sunita, I remember you mentioning you did go to the first episode, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I've gone through the second as well, but not the third. So if we want the discussion, so maybe we could hear to the podcast today rather than beginning the new chapter. So it will refresh, So most of us have not attended yesterday's session, so it will give you a clarity
but then
before
the
actually.
podcast will take like an hour or so, or like, so it will be just a reading, like listening to the podcast. I'm okay with doing that as well, but I'm just saying, like, do we want to do it in this time? Because we can individually do it anytime otherwise. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll go with the corrective call. Yeah, Manishji,
yeah, podcast we can do individually. I think that's better.
Yeah, that would be better.
did you go through the podcast so far? Any of the episodes that has been already shared? I have shared two.
I have not actually gone through.
Okay, okay. They're pinned actually, I guess, or you can just scroll up somewhere. They're there, and in the links and everything, you can find. Yeah,
Okay,
I
okay,
think, yeah,
okay.
Richa and Maniji, were you able to go through?
I think I started listening to that for 10 minutes, and to be honest, like I thought I knew what the podcast is saying because I keep listening to a lot of podcast every day. So इसलिए I just listen
It's
for
different, Maniji. Don't don't underestimate it because see, I'm telling you, this podcast and this book is very different from whatever we read and hear otherwise. It's very, very different. So it would be really, really good if you go through it because we assume that it's same, but it is not same. It is very, very different because this book has a very different perspective than any other motivational books we read. So it will be very enlightening. So if you, I would request you please go through it, like at least listen to it once, and you
yeah,
might have some new insights.
sure, sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. And I think the podcast is very easy to understand and explain. It is very easily explained in the podcast more than the book. So book actually explains a lot, but then book is anyways elaborated explanation from the author, na? And podcast is basically more clarification around the chapter from the book. So that listening to the podcast after reading helps us understand the perspective of the author and everything a little more better through the discussion that they have. So there are doubts people ask, and Oprah ask him, and then he explains it in a little different way. So that helps us a lot. So I would highly insist just go through it once because that's how I understood it better. So that's how I'm telling you, all of you, like basically. So I think if we don't have much to discuss, then we can just start with the reading itself. Richard, do you want to share
Y
anything?
yes, I'm ready. Sorry, I
Okay,
was
okay.
just wrapping up something. And to answer your previous question, for the podcast, I had listened to the chapter one podcast, but that was last year when you had initially shared the podcast links. When you had initially encountered them. It might be last year or 2 years ago. But I have not started listening to them now when we are reading the book, but I do plan to. Uh, Hopefully, from tomorrow, I will be, in fact, even be able to drive to work. So that's when I'm going to use that time to listen to the podcast. And then regarding the shares from yesterday, what I wanted to share was, so as I had mentioned, after yesterday's reading, that I have for past few days, I have been searching for clarity around something that has been uh, I will not say bothering me, but something that I have been contemplating on for several days. And so basically seeking clarity around how to remain unaffected when someone disregards or dismisses, my boundaries, because I do very well in assertive communication. And I mean, I do my best, I will say. Uh, and there is always scope of improvement. And I do my best to stay calm and politely and firmly also state about my boundaries, right? But even then, like, there are challenges, right, that happen in real life situation where some people are just not aware, right? They are not aware that what boundaries are, or they have just not been around people who are good at establishing boundaries, or they themselves have not tinkered with it. So while I understand, and that's why I repeatedly, politely and calmly reinstate my boundaries, and I have had like several instances of these. And what I notice is, while I might not react externally, but internally, there is still some frustration. There is still something within me, and I was always like trying to figure out, why am I still attracting such kind of people. And yes, yesterday, when we were reading chapter 3 of New Earth, there was this particular paragraph where the author talks about how we, by focusing on certain things, like and of course, when we are dwelling in the past and certain things, we tend to amplify certain things. And he had given some example where, either you are completely, because you are also, we are not completely deprived of our ego. We are working on getting better, or above that. Um, but sometimes, like, we focus so much on the fault or what happened, and of course, there is something that might not be respectful that someone has done to you. But even then, we get so consumed by it. So what he says is, we either, like, the way we rewind and think of the events, it's a total misinterpretation, a projection by a mind conditioned to see enemies and to make itself right or superior. And then at other times, the fault may be there, but by focusing on it, sometimes the exclusion of everything else, you amplify it. And what you react to in another, you strengthen in yourself, right? And this is the feeling that I was also getting, that I am somehow focusing on this and I'm attracting more of that, right? Of such people who are not respecting. But the other layer, and then he gets into explaining how non-reaction to the ego in others is one of the most effective ways, not only of going beyond ego in yourself, but also of dissolving the collective human ego. So these lines, like, just were very profound for me, especially for what I have been going through. And I think I finally found the insight that I was looking for, and how he elaborates on it. So the non-reaction, and again, I know that that's hard to achieve, but it did give me an answer in a way, like the way I am interpreting it, and I'm open to, ideas from others as well. But the way I'm interpreting it with the situations that I have been going through, I also realized that the answer to the question that I had, that why am I attracting such people? Or why, I'm constantly having these experiences where I have to reinstate my boundaries. Like I knew that the universe is testing me, but I was figuring out why. Like what is it? Not the why, sorry. What is it really that I'm being tested for? Is it patience or is it something else? So now I think I got the specific answer. It's basically that non-reaction, right? That I get to a level where all of this, I don't react to it, even in my mind, and I just let it pass as an experience. So that is one, right? That's the first thing that I really could gather, which is, I think, very profound, and I think it's going to help me for the rest of my life, I think, and hopefully I can work on this. And then uh, later in that paragraph, he also mentions, like I have highlighted some more lines, and I'll probably just take a minute or so. At times, you may have to take practical steps to protect yourself from deeply unconscious people. This you can do without making them into enemies. So again, this is about also avoiding certain people, but not with any disrespect. But you might have to politely communicate this, and I have been doing this also. But the next line that he says, your greatest protection, however, is being conscious. So yeah, that I think that deeper level of awareness in everything, and just having that awareness that everything is just an experience and it will go and just pass, right? I think that will uh, strengthen this whole practice. And then he also says non-reaction is not weakness but strength. So and with that I mean, like, I think the way I want to implement this is I want to practice non-reaction even in my head, because I know that I do get affected in my thoughts, and I'm like still focusing on it, right? Or thinking or ruminating about it. So yeah, that's the main share. I mean, of course, I have highlighted several things from the chapter from yesterday, but I want to be mindful of the time. If we have more time towards the end, then I'll share more. But that was my
Yeah,
biggest
actually,
takeaway.
Yeah, actually, I was about to ask everyone that we anyways decided that this book is a kind of a little different, so we would be going a little slow with it so that we understand it better. So I was about to ask everyone that as we decided to go through the first three chapters, like revising them and sharing insights around them, and then if time permits, we will go with the fourth chapter reading. So, do we want to go like with the highlights of the first three chapters or anything just as a revision first before we proceed to the fourth? We'll go with a collective call. Like, then we can just share highlights, we can just read out the topic titles and just see what we remember or what we understand from that. If that is okay, otherwise I can take you to the fourth chapter reading also, whatever is okay with everyone collective. So, what do you guys
Uh,
suggest?
I'm
That
fine, discussing. But just before we get into discussion, I just wanted to let you know, Mansi, that your voice is echoing.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
echoing.
yeah. Maybe the two screens were too close. Now it's better.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just wanted to know what would everyone else would want to do today. You want to read further, or you want to just have a little go through before we read further to the
uh,
first three chapters?
I think we can start this practice from tomorrow because we have not highlighted and we will focus more and then we can discuss.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, is everyone okay with that? What do you feel, Sunita and Manish ji?
I
I
mean,
would,
I have few things highlighted. What about others? Yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Sunita.
I would like to listen to what Richa needs to share. I've not highlighted them, but yeah, especially for
Okay, then
yesterday's chapter, that I want to listen what she had to share that she forgot about. positive
I'll,
time.
I'll just do, yeah, I'll just do one thing. I'll just take us through just the topic titles of every chapter right from the first one. So we revise the first three. This book is only 10 chapters basically. So just first three are done. So like one fourth I think is almost done. So so I'll just take you through that, and then we'll just Richa, you also share your highlights, and then we'll proceed with the reading. It's okay if we don't finish the fourth chapter today. Like we'll continue it tomorrow. And I'll share the
Sure.
third chapter podcast also today with everyone. So, what I remember so far is chapter one talked about human consciousness. Then he talks about the flower and how we can see the flower differently. If we start looking at things differently, then what they're named and all of that, that he talks about. Then in the second chapter, he talks about the ego. Then current state, he talks about humanity and ego in the second chapter. So the voices in our head and our differentiation between we and our me and myself story we shared, right? Like I think the author did not share it, but I shared it. So that part, I think that may be there in the podcast. I don't remember now, but yeah. And the third, it is again a deeper reflection upon ego again. So second and third are more on the same, and I can even the fourth one that we'll be reading further. It is also on ego. It is role playing. So yeah, actually we can actually do that also, as Suman suggested. The fourth chapter, after finishing that, also we can take a deeper dive into ego, understanding ego and our insights around it. That might help. I hopefully. Yeah. So far, just the chapter evocation. Um, so I'll just read out the title names, and if anyone remembers anything or have highlighted anything from this, they can just share through. Yeah. And who? Dr. Hindisam. Do you have anything to share from yesterday's or reading our reading so far? We are just asking everyone and just discussing on that before we proceed with the reading.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Sweet morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, ego is something that is, we must not take it too personal. We must be ourselves. We must be someone who is, who is ready to express, who is ready to live by free will. We should always be there to express ourselves that we are free for what can I say? I cannot express it by words. I'll tell you later.
Yeah, no problem. We were just talking, we were just trying to go deeper in what we read yesterday, and then just reflect upon it. No problem. Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah, the
sure.
first chapter started with an example of a flower, stone, and all the elements in nature, and how they actually evolve through, and how everything as life or with is life or not life evolves through. He mentions, and he talks about the purpose of the book basically
Sure.
in the first this thing. So anything, and see, please feel free to stop me. I'm going a little faster so we have more time to
Sure,
read and
sure.
all. But anyone have any highlights or anything specially in the book in this particular topic that you would want to read out or highlight or want to read again? Let me know and I'll just stop there. Okay. Yeah, Richa, if
Sure,
you have
sure.
highlighted anything
I
from any.
just have, yes, just one sentence in the part that you've covered so far. It's on page number 2. Seeing beauty in a flower could awaken humans, however briefly, to the beauty that is an essential part of their own innermost being, their true nature. I think it covers the essence of his
Yes,
analogy
yes.
uh,
Yeah, very true.
between
Very true.
flowering of the human consciousness. So it's very beautifully written.
Yes, yes, very true. So yeah, then he talks about the purpose of the book. It's basically for the awakening, and he says like we are all living um, like a non-awakened selves these days, and that's how this book serves its purpose. Then he talks about our inherited dysfunction. In this, he talks about dukkha, maya, sadness, and all, and how Buddha discovered it. How that then he doesn't really come about talking ego in till this part yet, but he talks about how that separates us. And that's eternal, like you cannot escape it, kind. So it's just about embracing it. So, yeah, anything from here?
I also like the fact that you said that you don't have to explain this book to anyone else. You have to experience this for yourself. And it's
Yeah.
okay if someone else doesn't agree to what you're learning because they might not be at that stage. They might not be ready for the revelation. So that is something that got me a lot of clarity about the fact that if I'm not actually understanding anything uh, that is being said, with the context that is being said, is that maybe I need to review things internally or experience more to get that level of understanding or that level of uh, feel for for the topic that has been discussed.
Yes, yes. Basically, this book is like that, na? Like, and in fact, everything is like that, that we understand only up to our limited ability to dismantle the learnings, right? Like, we all come with our own set of beliefs and understandings, and we understand something from our perspective. That's why the discussion and everything is so different, na? Everyone, even if we read the same parts, we all reflect differently based on our experiences, our beliefs, our understandings of things. So in this, he covers that part also. He talks about fear, greed, desire, power, and all those motivation, and how all of these things actually that we are having, like we are pulling through childhood beliefs and conditioning and things like that through our religion and so many things that shape us. He says that how that actually separate us, and he talks about religion and how people think mine is superior than yours type, and all those things are covered in this. Like this he says is all not awakened consciousness. So in this part, the arising new consciousness, he covers about like how everyone's like जैसे वो I think the new movie, I recently watched this movie कि सितारे जमी पे. In that they say, right, सबका अपना normal है. So everyone's normal is different. So I think somewhere around that it's in alignment with that, I would say. Then it talks about teachings of Buddha and how all different teachings also share the same things. May it be Buddha, may it be uh, the spiritual Lao Tzu or other people. It's all the same things basically that is being shared, but we feel ours is superior and ours is something like that. And later on in the next chapter, he comes on that, like all of these things together, like all this is basically ego. So he talks about various religions and various these things in this, and how these old schools teaches things differently, which is not really spirituality as such. So he differentiates between spirituality and religion, and how our beliefs and everything shapes us, shapes our mind and everything as such. So, any highlights, anything from here, Richa?
I just had, yeah, I think few lines on page 12. Fear, greed, and the desire for power are the psychological motivating forces not only behind warfare and violence between nations, tribes, religions, and ideologies, but also the cause of incessant conflict in personal relationships.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think one other line on previous pages that I had liked when he was stating, about all the big, uh, ideas from different, like from Hinduism. especially. And he mentioned that Ramana Maharshi, one of the greatest Indian sages, bluntly states the mind is Maya. Uh, and then later on, I think one of the Buddha's thing, which we know of, but it's a very powerful reminder: wherever you go, whatever you do, says the Buddha, you will encounter dukkha. So I know you mentioned about this, but I had highlighted those lines, so I thought that I'll just share. And dukkha, and it will manifest in every situation sooner or later. I think this is good because a lot of times we think that we escape from a certain situation. Like, as an example, if I'm not feeling good at work or something is not favorable, right, I might think, oh my god, no, let me just change my job. And at times not realizing, right, that I'll have similar situations, like those kind of conflicts will happen at other places as well. So if I'm running away from the conflicts, then or running away from dukkha, as Buddha says, that escape mentality is not going to get me anywhere. Uh, so I liked those lines for that reason.
Yeah. Thank you for highlighting that. In fact, yeah, very
Yeah,
true.
can I add something here?
Yeah, Manish ji, yeah.
See, Richa, just to add to the what you just stated, my take on that is, that challenges, pain, they are part of life, and the point is that they are essential for our growth, learning, enlightenment, upliftment. Okay, because see, the most important thing about is that accepting it. That yes, when we do that, pain is part of life. This is how our human evolution is, and being aware of it will give the strength to come out of it. It's just like, action is the enemy of fear. So the point is that, we have to, uh, when we talk about ego and things like that, we don't look for reason to come out of it. Maybe the awareness is not there or something like that. So what I want to say is that through this book also from Ego, the author is saying that, we have to accept the real truth of life, that pain is part of life and it will keep on coming, going, things like that. And being aware of it, कि भाई ठीक है, it will happen. So we have to immediately focus on how we can get better at it, how can we come out of it. So the answer is action, being aware of it. And when we do those affirmation that I'm greater than my circumstances and things like that, so basically they empower our mind and our heart in such a way that we don't feel the pain. Pain is there, but we have accepted it, and we have also found the key to the pain, that the pain is making me stronger, it is making me learn, and it can help me to avoid, if I don't take action, it can grow into a bigger pain. So the point is, we have to accept that pain is part of life, and we have to immediately look also that how we can get rid of it. you know so it's just like, awareness is power, and power will make you take action, and that's how we can come out of it. So there are certain things in life, like in a family also, nobody is same, right? Everybody is different. So the point is that we need to liberate ourselves from those feelings of pain, challenges, struggles, and so I think, we should, for me, I'm saying that, just accepting that pain is part of life. Accepting will give you and facing the pain will give you the power to come out of that pain. Because sometimes, we don't face the pain or the challenge because we don't feel that we have the power to face that, right? We run away from those challenges, circumstances. अरे ऐसा हो जाएगा, वैसे हो जाएगा. So we are living with the pain, right? And we are not taking any action to come out of pain. So the point here is that, is all about awareness, is all about liberation, right? So we have to keep doing our best, and just accepting that pain is part of life, challenging is part of life. People will, some experiences which we feel not good, they are part of life. So, but we have to accept it. Yes, it is going to liberate. It will teach me something. It will make me grow into a better person. It will make me more stronger. and just finding accepting that awareness will give the power to overcome those fear, pain, or whatever it is. And that's how I connect to that. Accepting and taking action is the solution, right? And so what I see normally, you are in US and I used to stay there a long time, right? So here in India, I see that road is broken, ऐसा है वैसा है. So what I'm doing now is I just laugh at that pain. अरे ये पेन है तो तभी तो कुछ हैप्पीनेस है, right? So similarly, we have to look at life. Pain, and life is a both a set of pain and happiness. It is part of, you can say that, uh, like you cannot avoid that. So what I do is when I see something bad which I usually don't used to like, I just laugh at it. अरे कुछ बुरा है तभी तो कुछ अच्छा है, right? So
So,
you have to just use that, you have to trick your mind, because something if you can't change, right? So we have to live with that. But how we accept it and how we react to it makes the difference. So what
yeah,
I
so and the author actually has a dedicated chapter which we will be coming after the fourth chapter, it's the fifth chapter, which is on the pain body. So he talks about pain very differently in that, and we will get to know a little more like about pain and all of that as we read through that chapter. Just giving an idea because I have read it, so I'm just sharing it with everyone here.
Yeah, Manish, she was right about the acceptance also. He also, Eckhart also talks about that. If you accept,
see.
uh, the acceptance is what is going to lead to you
So
taking your challenges much better. And I'm reading
yeah,
from one of the things that I highlight. I didn't realize yet that thinking without awareness is the main dilemma of human existence. So he's talking about awareness for it, that we are all thinking without being aware of where our thoughts are leading. And that is the cause of the pain and the struggles that we face, you know, within our heads
yeah.
or create for ourselves.
So very much in alignment with what we are speaking about pain and change and everything. This first paragraph that is on the screen right now, I'll just read it out for everyone. It is also in alignment with what we are speaking and maybe a little insightful around it. So it talks about this part talks about transformation and how we are like forced to transform, like how life evolves and it is forced, not just humans but in general it talks about how life transformed. So the first para is about when faced with a radical crisis, when the old way of being in the world, of interacting with each other and with the realm of nature doesn't work anymore, when survival is threatened by seemingly unsurmountable problems, an individual life form or a species will either die or become extinct or rise above the limitation of its condition through an evolutionary leap. So, this paragraph basically summarizes every evolution of every life. So, even a tree, it has to go like a seed has to go through its transformation when it breaks out, when that when the sprout breaks out of its core, or when the sprout grows bigger and bigger and it breaks out of the ground to grow out. And it's all like if this is a very beautiful I think analogy, we can say that we are always seeking light. So the sprout is in darkness, and but it's always growing towards light, and finally it breaks out of that core in the search of light. And also from the ground surface it breaks out to come on the earth in the search of light, and then eventually the tree grows towards light, like basically with the help of light and all that. So that's how we all are always seeking light. And he talks about the evolution of how a sea creature, there was just land. He says that there was just water earlier, and the first animal who crawled from the sea to the land later developed, the fins got converted into legs, and that's how the evolution started and the species on earth started, is what he mentions. So it's basically we are all breaking out of all of this old things that we are made of, like So it's also about, I think, Darwin's theory, right? Survival of the fittest. So maybe in alignment with that.
And
So here
Mansi,
there is this, yeah, and here he talks about the voices in your head. So what is ego is basically the voice in your head. You say I just
Mansi, sorry to interrupt. Your voice is echoing again. Is it possible for you to like drop the audio at least on one of the screens? I understand that you have two screens, but the way to not let this happen is by completely disconnecting audio on one of the screens. Because
Yeah,
even if
somehow I
the
don't know, but I'm not able to do that. That's the problem because I've tried it multiple times, but somehow okay, I'll
no,
just
so if you go to the audio thing, right? Because this
yeah,
ha
I
I mean,
did that. I did that just
and
now.
why we
Let's
need two sessions, Mansi? Why need to log into two sessions?
because I
I
have to
think for
share the screen,
screen.
no?
Screen
So that
sharing and
I think
yeah,
the echo has
and
stopped now.
recording.
Is it better?
Yes, yes,
I have
No,
yes.
connected the
but
audio.
I can still hear towards the end because sometimes it picks up more. I don't know because see when I
Okay, leave
see
it.
your yeah.
I may not be speaking all the time, so it's only the problem when I unmute and talk. So I'll do that a
Yeah,
little
and
less.
I think
Will
when
help.
you switch, I mean, when I say you have to drop the audio, it's not just muting, it's basically like,
No, no,
uh,
I have
uh,
dropped the device audio. That's what I have tried earlier also. Even if I keep this device audio switch off, then also the sound is there. I
It's
don't
fine,
know why is
Mansi.
that so.
Mansi, it's fine now. It's fine now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So, yeah. Anything else anyone wants to highlight or just mention out over here, right from the book, especially?
So, yeah, just want
I
to
would
add
I
little.
would insist that please share from the book also, book deeply because we are trying to go deeper in the book rather than our own concepts because otherwise we'll go haywire, having our own beliefs emphasized rather than going deeper in the book that what the author is talking about. So that's the purpose. So yeah, Manish, you can go on.
Sometimes what happens is, Mansi, my take on is that, the author is also when stating something, he has also has a limited thought on that topic, right? So when I mention something, it's just like, knowledge from the book and with the experience of life. I think that adds more to the flavor. Like, this is my thought. Matlab, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. We do that, right? We when we share our perspectives, is anyways our experiences and our beliefs, right? That we're expressing our opinions. So we anyways do that.
Yeah, because what the
So
author is saying, that is not the final thing, right? So that's my
yeah, but
here.
at least we know that he's more experienced and he's known as he is an authoritative figure up to talk about this from what
Yeah.
we are, right? We definitely have the freedom to
Yeah.
uh, take it in our way, but he is someone who's been a spiritual leader and who's been talked, and the book has been circulated in so many countries, and so but definitely the authority he has over what we understand is much better. So if
Correct.
we can just go with the surrender of
Yeah.
trying to understand what he's trying to say, maybe we might get helped
No,
through the learnings, right?
I
Rather
do
than just
understand
sticking to our
that.
own beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, I do understand that, and I do appreciate that also. I was just wanted to share something that I just said. So, in the same alignment, I just want to say in few lines more in an alignment with the book is that, that there are certain things in life that we can't avoid. Like we went through experience of life, fear, ego, and things like that. And life is never perfect. So the point here is that okay, we have read so many things, but what I have learned out of it, how we can use the benefit from that learning, from the reading basically. So the point here is to ultimately getting aware about the reality of life, that yes, pain is part of life, and we cannot have more happiness without going through pain of life. So basically pain and happiness, they go hand in hand. Only when we go through pain we liberate ourselves, we say yes to life. So accepting the pain in a happy, that yes, it is going to liberate me higher, it is going to make me a better person, it will add to my happiness. So I think that acceptance of this awareness and accepting that pain is crucial for life, that is your I will say a good friend. Pain is a good friend of yours if you take it in the right perspective. Pain is part of life, suffering is part of life, feeling bad is part of life. Every bad experience is also part of life that you cannot avoid. And accepting is saying yes to life and saying yes to taking action and liberate yourself and coming out of it. Pain sets you
So,
free. Read so many
I
times,
yeah.
right?
think, Manishji,
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt, and I'm sorry to interrupt you also, Mansi, but I wanted to, step in because uh, the way Mansi was trying to explain. And I think Manish, it will help us if you can elaborate by using a small example because like acceptance, right? So it will help how you can apply it to a small example that okay, today this happened and this is how I deal with it. So in that way, it's just focused on while it is, I understand that it's aligned with the book, right? But it makes it bite size approach, right? I think that's what
So, yeah,
Mansi was trying to say,
yeah. So what?
if
Yeah.
I'm interpreting it correctly.
No, no, that's fair. That's fair question from your side. So how I do that is when I see something is not I'm not happy with or I'm finding challenge. What I do is I practice gratitude. I do affirmations. Yes, I'm above my because see it's all about feelings and beliefs, right? So the real power is your belief and feelings. What I do is I do affirmation that okay, I am above my obstacles, right? I can do hard work and I can overcome that challenge of life. Okay, I practice gratitude that okay, God has given me so much so far, and that is enough for me to live a happy life. Why I'm striving so much for my business goals and things like that. So it was basically, it's just like learning and appreciating life. What life has offered you so far. So it makes you happy. It makes you full of energy. It gives you confidence. Yes, when I achieved so far, then I can do more also. It's just a matter of time, right? So I just focus on the positive part of life. That okay, it is helping me to learn patience, perseverance, resilience, the real strength of life, so that tomorrow if I face a bigger challenge in business when I'm working in millionaires billionaires, then I'll need that strength, and that strength is building up right now. So I have to just discipline and patience is a very powerful thing,
so yeah,
that.
I'll just read out something that is in front of me. Uh, so so the um so the chapter says that the change goes deeper than the content of your mind. So so when he talks about change, he says like how we break out of it, and how he explains it like about the voice in your head and all that. So I'll just read out. It's very much in alignment with what we're talking. So the change goes deeper than the content of your mind, deeper than your thoughts. In fact, at the heart of the new consciousness, in the transcendence of thought, the newfound ability of rising above thought, of realizing a dimension within yourself that is infinitely more vast than thought. You then no longer derive your identity, your sense of who you are, from the incessant stream of thinking that in the old consciousness you take to be yourself. So I'll just read it out this one line again. You then no longer derive your identity, your sense of who you are, from the incessant stream of thinking that in the old consciousness you take to be yourself. What a liberation to realize that the voice in my head is not who I am. Who I am then? The one who sees that. The awareness that is prior to thought, the space in which the thought or the emotion or sense perception happens. So basically, this talks about the observer. So basically, we are when we become the observer of our own thoughts, that's when we are rising above ourselves, our old identities. Ego is no more than this. Identification with form, which primarily means thought forms. If evil has any reality and it has a relative, not an absolute reality, this is its definition. Okay, this is a little different. This is also its definition: complete identification with form, physical, thought, emotional. So we identify ourselves with our thoughts, with our physical reality, and with our emotions we experience. So we are separate of all of this.
I
So
would
the
like
results
to
in
I would like to
total,
just associate this with the fly on the wall concept, like which we, as most of us have done
yes,
NLP.
yes,
So
NLP.
from
No,
that
no, not
perspective,
most of us have done it, Sunita, but yes, you can explain that.
yeah. So that came to my mind when he said that observer, when you become the observer, that is that you look at your emotions, your reactions, uh, from the observer perspective and fly on the wall perspective. That will give you uh, that will detach you from that. So detachment is what and giving a more uh, not that emotional grip or um, response or reaction to the situation that you're in. That is what I understood.
Yes, yes, very true. In fact, I also related it with one of the other books that we read, The Fifth Agreement. In that, there are these three stages of evolution that is explained. So in that, there is the master stage where you come to this stage. So that also talks with the different names, but it's the similar concept. Like, and in that, it's explained in much deeper. So I'll just read out this one line from this chapter: a new heaven and a new earth. A new heaven is the emergence of a transformed state of human consciousness, and a new earth is its reflection in the physical realm. So this reminds me, even in Gita, na, it is mentioned, right? Like our world is like an inverted reflection of the heaven, they say. So there is a picture in the illustrated version of it also. So basically he's helping. He's saying that with this effort, he's trying to help us rise to our consciousness, rise above our existing consciousness, and that's how a new earth will emerge. Is what he says overall. So yeah, then there's the next chapter. So we took a little longer in this. So the next two chapters are all about ego. The first chapter talks about the current state of humanity, and he talks about ego and humanity in general. So he helps us understand what ego is and things like that with examples and all, and how ego is like it's I, me, mine. He talks about anything that comes with I, me, mine, myself, or anything that is ego. So there was a beautiful example what he shares. I remember. Anyone highlighted it by any chance? So basically, he talks about when you talk about something that is not exactly ego, but when you add an I to it, that becomes an ego. Like that comes from the place of an ego. That was a nice example.
Yeah, the
Uh,
toy, right? The toy.
Somewhere, yeah, don't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
I have
I think it's
highlighted
here.
it. So he says not because it's on page 29, not because of any intrinsic value that the toy has. The child will soon lose interest in it and it will be replaced by other toys, other objects. But because of the thought of mine, the toy became part of the child's developing sense of self, of the I.
Hmm. No, no, I'm not talking about that part. Yes, that was there. It just I just scrolled through it. But there was one other example where he very beautifully explains. Um, I'm not finding it somehow. Like for example, I don't remember exactly, but for example, like if someone hurts you or if something happens, maybe that that is natural that you're saying, okay, this is hurting or something. But when we come from a place of thinking that how can you do this to me, or
Hmm.
how can I be done this to, or whatever, like how can I suffer, or why is this happening to me? Then he says that when that me comes in, or when that I comes in that perspective, then this is the talk of the ego. So ego makes everything about me, myself, and I. So anything, things need to be expressed, but wherever they're coming from a place of I, that is where the ego is putting his head out, is what he explains very nicely. I somehow not able to find the proper example that I'm talking about. If I just happen to, I'll
Yeah,
just read it out.
I think on page 31 I found something where it's like it went something like this, like he was talking about someone talking to him, right? And it was, and then she said to me, so I said to her, you are a liar. How dare you accuse me of, when you are the one who has always taken advantage of me? I trusted you and you betrayed my trust. So there is a lot of I, my, all of those feelings. I don't know if you were talking about this example, but it explains the voice in the head, because it's everything about I, me, myself, right? Or mine.
Maybe, I don't know. So I'll just read one thing out, maybe that will help. One of the most basic structures through which ego comes into existence is identification. The word identification is derived from the Latin word idem, meaning same, and facere, which means to make. So when I identify with something, I make it the same. And the same as what? The same as I endow it with sense of self, and so it becomes part of my identity. So this also applies to our opinions and thoughts. We discussed this, right? Like anything that is my thoughts, my beliefs, my house, my car, all this. Like anything that is identified with me, mine, my I. It could be our children as well. So that is ego, is what he says. So
May I read
and then he
something?
differentiates this, that how does ego sorry, just a minute, like I'll just complete the sentence. So how ego is structured, so he very beautifully explains. There are different ways that ego comes in play. Basically, identification with things, how we identify ourselves with this is my thing, something. Then he gives the lost ring example, how we identify with things, and that's where the ego is playing its role. Then illusion of ownership. So again, this talks about, like, this is mine, this is my house, my thing, my whatever, like whatever is mine. We talked about it, like children, including our children, in fact, or parents or whatever. Then wanting, he takes about, it comes from the place of wanting, also need for more. So I want this, I want do that. All that want also comes from a place of ego. And then identification with our body. So he's differentiated it into all of this, feeling the inner body, forgetfulness of being. Yeah, yeah, sorry, yeah. Sunita, I think someone was trying to say something. Is it Sunita?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just wanted to, so you covered that now. So I wanted to talk about the need for more. That ego identifies with having.
please add whatever you wanted to share.
So just that, the same thing that, I had highlighted this, that the need for having more, that I don't have enough yet, which actually means that I am not enough yet and I need more. So that if you are in that state of mind that you need more to fulfill your definition of yourself, that means that you are somewhere being ruled by your ego, and
Yes,
that
yes,
it is an addictive need and not an authentic one. So how
yes,
I related it is that to survive as a human being, you just need the three things, the basic three things, food, health, and maybe well. Other than that, anything else that we add on to our lives or our definitions or our identities is all linked to people. And which, for a normal human being, to a certain extent, is something in the scenarios that we're living in, is something that we don't, at least I don't identify. If I say that, okay, I have built this uh, s- mm, style of living or as what I need to survive in this society, so that is an ego that is my ego that this is my level of living or my uh, my ego that is coming into which I have not uh, thought it in that sense.
yes, true. So I'll just take quickly through the last chapter, like the chapter that we read yesterday. That talks very much in depth about the ego, and very beautifully explained also things. So there were a lot of highlightable parts in this chapter, in fact. So I'll just take you quickly through that. So it's called the core of ego. So so most people are so completely identified with the voice in the head, the incest. We read this, right? It's the same line repeated. Incessant stream of involuntary and compulsive thinking and the emotions that accompany it, that we may describe them as being possessed by their mind. As long as you're completely unaware of this, you take the thinker to be who you are. So it's basically asking us to separate us from our thoughts. This is the egoic mind. We call it egoic because there is a sense of self, of ego, I, in every thought, every memory, every interpretation, opinion, viewpoint, reaction, emotion. So there is a lot of I in our opinions when we say, when we share some beliefs, when we share some thoughts, as he mentioned earlier, coming from our old understanding and identity, that is coming from a place of ego, because then we are shutting ourselves down to receiving the new ideas. Your thinking, the content of your mind is, of course, conditioned by the past, your upbringing, culture, family, background, and so on. The central core of all your mind activity consists of certain repetitive and persistent thoughts, emotions, and reactive patterns that you identify with most strongly. This entity is ego itself. So, anything that is coming from the past things that we are made of, that is coming from a place of ego, he's saying. So, me and my story, I, whatever, like whatever comes from a habitual perspective. And he repeatedly highlights here that just it's not about just nationality, religion, race, social class, or political allegiance. It also concerns contains personal identification, not only with possessions but also with opinions, external appearances, long standing resentments, or concepts of yourself as better than or not as good as others. So Sunita, you asked about this, right? So it's anything that separates us, success or failure. So he highlights this here, but I think he goes deeper into it in the fourth chapter. So about the other part of ego. So so ego only differs on the surface. Deep down, they are all the same. And then he goes ahead and explain different forms of ego that it shows up. It heads. It's so as Richa mentioned initially during our discussion today. It shows up through complaining and resentment. When we are in the mode of complaining and resentment, we are thinking we are superior to someone, subtly, like subconsciously or on a subtle level. We feel that we are better than someone, and that's how we complain, we judge, and things like that happen. And then he talks about reactivity and grievance. So he says also it's not about just feeling complaining or like feeling superior or complaining itself, but even in grievances, when we grieve about something, when we are very much hurt about something, that is also coming from a place of ego, because it coming from a place of how can this happen to me, how can they do this to me, or someone doing injustice to me. It could be injustice, injustice in fact, but like when we just brood a little more than required, maybe, then maybe that is like we are just feeding our egos through that. So yeah.
Mansi, I would like to highlight one line. It's a very short line on page
Yeah, yeah.
63, related to complaining and I think applicable for grieving also. Like he says, complaining is not to be confused with informing someone of a mistake or deficiency so that it can be put right. I think this is very important
Yes,
because
yes.
he's not asking you to suppress or not speak up or not stand up for something that is wrong, but mainly like, yeah, without brooding over it and just stating it factually, I think is what he explains in that paragraph. So I wanted to highlight that.
Yes, yes, I found it. And he says to refrain from complaining doesn't necessarily mean putting up with bad quality of behavior. There is no ego in telling the waiter. So yeah, this is the line I was talking about. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I'll just read out this paragraph for everyone. Complaining is not to be confused with informing someone of a mistake or deficiency so that it can be put right. And to refrain from complaining doesn't necessarily mean putting up with bad quality or behavior. There is no ego in telling the waiter that your soup is cold and needs to be heated up. If you stick to the facts, which are always neutral, how dare you serve me cold soup? That's complaining. There is a me and here and that loves to feel personally offended by this cold soup and is going to make the most of it. A me that enjoys making someone wrong. The complaining we are talking about is in the service of the ego, not of change. Sometimes it becomes obvious that the ego doesn't really want change, so it can go on complaining. So basically, sometimes we just go in that mode of just undervaluing someone or doing some things from a place of ego. So he just beautifully explains the difference between it. So it's okay to tell the facts. Thank you for highlighting this, dear Richa. In fact, this is the para and this is the line I was talking about. I
Yeah,
was
I
looking
had a
for.
feeling when you were looking for this in the first chapter, right? I was like, maybe you're talking about something in chapter three because
Yeah,
it seemed like, but I wasn't sure. So I'm glad
yeah.
we
So
found
this,
it. Yeah.
yeah, we exactly found the one I wanted to talk. I wanted to highlight. So yeah, he talks about all of these places where ego. The last and the most, I think, important one is being right or making wrong. So we see so many people. We talked about this now, like how we are so attached to our opinions. So we think what we think is only right, and happens all the time with our close members, especially close friends, family, kids, parents. So it's all about the fight is all about right and wrong most of the time. So he's talking about that also. I feel I would highly insist that anyone who's not read through, please go and read through it. This is very beautiful because every line, every para is very very enlightening from this chapter. It will be, you will have a lot of aha moments as you go through. So instead of we just telling you, I would highly suggest go read it and listen to the podcast also. I'll share it right now, like today itself. Okay, so this is all that more. Yeah,
I
I
wanted
think we
to
covered the most.
share few lines, Mansi, on
Yeah,
that
please, please, please. Yeah,
reactivity and grievances, right? There was one
I'll just
important
go. I'll
thing.
just do one thing, Richa. I'll just quickly come to the end of the chapter. Just seeing if any highlightable or any. Sorry, I haven't highlighted anything, but any topic is missing, and then you take us through the highlights that you have put. Is it okay?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, works for me,
So
but
it
I
will
am
be in a
also looking
flow.
at the time. It's
Yeah,
already 8:10,
yeah,
right?
we are going over
For
it
me.
today. Yeah, just give me like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I think will be done. Like with your highlights and everything. Even I won't take like longer. I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
yeah, yeah.
scroll up
Whatever
fast.
works. Yeah, since you just went past that topic, that's why. But yeah, this works for me. So you can finish up, and then I can share the highlights. Yep.
Yeah, we'll start with the fourth chapter tomorrow. We don't start today, and we'll just start tomorrow fresh with the fourth chapter. And meanwhile, I would highly insist that I'll share the podcast and go through the podcast, especially the second and third one. That is on this ego topic that we're talking about. So in this, he says ego is not personal. So many times we take things personally, right? I think this very much aligns because again this is a spiritual book also. So it very much aligns with the four agreements and the fifth agreement also. So then he says the war is a mindset. So yeah, he talks about how war also comes from a place of ego and all of that. Then he talks about, do you want peace or drama? So here he beautifully talks about what are you choosing? What are we choosing all the time? Are we choosing drama or are we? This is a very beautiful paragraph. I won't read it now because of the constraint of time. But there are a lot of questions as you can see already. So there are a lot of reflective questions in this. So I think this just reading through this paragraph or reading through this one thing will help us identify what are like in our day to day operations also, right? Sometimes we just get so dramatic, and sometimes the drama is not about outside people, it's also the inner drama we play on. Like all we say, right? Like we procrastinate. What is procrastination? Procrastination is an inner drama that goes on in our heads. So basically, he talks about peace or drama. So what are you choosing? And there are a lot of beautiful questions that will help us reflect. I'll just do one thing. I'll just screenshot this and share it in the group for everyone to read. So beyond ego, your true identity. So in this, he now helps us understand that once we are able to move beyond our egos, that's when we are able to identify and find our authentic self or embrace our authentic self. So he talks about this. Then I think, yeah, now I think I'm covered. The ego needs to feel superior. So yeah, we all know that ego and fame, and yeah, he explains everything very beautifully. I think you just go through it, you'll get to know better. And Richa, you share your highlights now so we can close after that. I don't know if it was a good way of introspecting. Maybe we can do better next time. So you can share anything if you want before we leave, if anyone wants to share something, and then we'll close the room. We'll read tomorrow. So yeah, Richa, you share your highlights and anything anyone wants to share, any insights, anything you want to just highlight from the book or whatever else, please do that. Yeah, Richa, go on.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I had already covered like the non-reaction part, which was under the complaining and resentment subheading. So in reactivity and grievances section, right? I think he defines long-standing resentment is called a grievance. So he's differentiating between resentment or like specifying that grievance is a deeper level of resentment. Um, he gives an example also while you think about and feel your grievance, its negative emotional energy can distort your perception of an event that is happening in the present or influence the way in which you speak or behave toward someone in the present. So that's also very important. And then later on in that paragraph, this was very, very profound, at least for me. That's why it was highlight worthy. If you do become aware of the grievance, both on the level of thought as well as emotion, that is to say, be aware of the thoughts that keep it alive and feel the emotion that is the body's response to those thoughts. And this is very important. Don't try to let go of the grievance. Trying to let go to forgive does not work. Forgiveness happens naturally when you see that it has no purpose other than to strengthen a false sense of self to keep the ego in place. So I like this, because I know we all practice forgiveness for certain situations, but here he's specifying, right, that this is a long-standing resentment or a grievance. So why forgiveness will not work? So I think this is very important because we go through some of these very hard situations. And then to end the paragraph, he says the past has no power to stop you from being present now. Only your grievance about the past can do that. And what is a grievance? The baggage of old thought and emotion. Then being right, making wrong section. Again, few lines. For you to be right, of course, you need someone else to be wrong. And so the ego loves to make wrong in order to be right. I related this, with something that I used to do like years ago when I was in Bangalore. And when I used to step out to go to work, and I had to take at times the auto rickshaw, and they are known, the auto rickshaw walas over there, to be very snarky and whatnot, right? But there were days when I used to like go in there, and if they would say something, I would feel happy because I wanted to fight. I wanted someone to take out my anger or frustration on. And I identified that, back then. And I was like, no, this is not good. Like, why am I looking forward to yelling at someone. So this was a funny example that I got reminded of. Um, then in defense of an illusion, uh, light travels faster than sound. Like he gives an example. That's why I like his, again, way of writing. Facts undoubtedly exist. If you say light travels faster than sound and someone else says the opposite is the case, you are obviously right and he's wrong. Because here this is about the fact. But then and he explains why you are, so not only are you right, but you know you are right in this situation. Is there any ego involved in this? Possibly, but not necessarily, right? It's also, again, the energy that you will state the fact. But then next like in the paragraph later on, he explains. So if you find yourself saying, believe me, I know, or why do you never believe me? Then the ego has already crept in. So this was a very nice example, but very practical examples. And we see this happening either with us or like it could be anyone's ego. Uh, and like the author says, like we are able to identify it in the world. And each time we are not reacting to it, it helps us to raise the level of consciousness collectively. That's the idea, I think, that he's trying to, make us privy to. Another few lines in the same section. Only through awareness are you able to see there is the situation, and here is the anger I feel about it, and then realize there are other ways of approaching the situation, other ways of seeing it and dealing with it. So he also explains why the awareness will help. In the next section, truth, relative or absolute, I have highlighted something on page 70. All religions are equally false and equally true, depending on how you use them. You can use them in the service of the ego, or you can use them in the service of the truth. So I found that powerful. On the next page, he has quoted something from, or shared something from Jesus. Jesus speaks of the innermost, I am, the essence, identity of every man and woman, every life form, in fact. Buddhists call it your Buddha nature. For Hindus, it is Atman. So he's comparing, like, and I like this, because all the major religions, talk about this higher consciousness, the indwelling God. When you are in touch with that dimension within yourself and being in touch with it is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement. All your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. Then the next section, the ego is not personal. In that, I have highlighted something on page 73. When you confuse the ego that you perceive in others with their identity, it is the work of your own ego that uses this misperception to strengthen itself through being right and therefore superior. And later on in the next para, he says the particular egoic patterns that you react to most strongly in others and misperceive as their identity tend to be the same patterns that are also in you, but that you are unable or unwilling to detect within yourself. This is very powerful. What is it in them that you find most upsetting, most disturbing? Is it their selfishness, their greed, their need for power and control? Anything that you resent and strongly react to in another is also in you. So again, very powerful explanations. Then war is a mindset. There I've highlighted whatever you fight, you strengthen, and what you resist persists. I think this is quote worthy. I think I'm going to like write this and put it at my desk.
Whenever you
And
resist
then
persists there always, yeah.
yeah. And in the next para, he says the war against disease has given us, amongst other things, antibiotics. So he has explained very beautifully how at first they were spectacularly successful, seemingly enabling us to win the war against infectious diseases. And now, experts agree that the widespread and indiscriminate use of antibiotics has created a time bomb, and that antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria, so-called superbugs, will in all likelihood bring about a re-emergence of those diseases and possibly epidemics. And then he gives special mention for some of the traditional conventional medicines or alternate medicines, as the Western world calls them, pun intended by me. So he is referring to homeopathy and Chinese medicine are two examples of possible alternative approaches to disease that do not treat the illness as an enemy and therefore do not create new diseases. So I found this to be, I think, very, very powerful. Um, no, he later on says nobody is wrong. It is the ego in someone. That's all. Compassion arises when you recognize that all are suffering from the same sickness of the mind, some more acutely than others. I think I like how he's looping back to what he introduced in the first chapter, which is the severe, I'm forgetting the word, but that epidemic kind of scenario where he's saying that we all are sick with this, the planet is sick with this, the defect, right, that we all have of the mind. You do not fuel the drama anymore. That is part of all egoic relationships. What is its fuel? Reactivity. The ego thrives on it. Uh, and then, do you want peace or drama? I think you had covered it very well, Mansi. I had highlighted few things, but I think you had already covered it, so I'm skipping it. Uh, in Beyond Ego, Your True Identity, he says about spiritual realization on page 78. Spiritual realization is to see clearly that what I perceive, experience, think, or feel is ultimately not who I am, that I cannot find myself in all those things that continuously pass away. The Buddha was probably the first human being to see this clearly, and so anatta, no self, became one of the central points of his teaching. And then he also quotes Jesus when he used to say, deny thyself. What it means is negate and thus undo the illusion of self. Uh, when I know myself as that, whatever happens in my life is no longer of absolute, but only of relative importance. I think this is also a very nicely put line, that, like the difference between absolute and relative importance. Um, all structures are unstable. I loved this experience that he shared, so you all can read it at your own leisure. But to quickly just mention it, there was like he had gone to a park with one of his friends, I believe, and he saw something written on in that park. Uh, and I'm trying to see, yeah, in Malibu, and it read, danger, all structures are unstable. And I said to my friend, that's a profound sutra, and he uses the word sutra from our like Sanskrit terminology, so sacred scripture. And we stood there in awe. Once you realize and accept that all structures, forms are unstable, even the seemingly solid material ones, peace arises within you. Like I think it just humbles us, right? So it's a beautiful example. So definitely go through that section. Uh, if someone has more, knows more, or can do more than I, the ego feels threatened because the feeling of less diminishes its imagined sense of self relative to the other. So he has explained it again very nicely. Ego and fame, he explains the phenomenon of name dropping. Like when we are like trying to say, oh, I know this person, and that is also very ego driven. He explains that. And in the last or the like last few lines, he says a grotesque in fact, he spoke of a grotesque contradiction. I think he's talking about Albert Einstein. Yeah, and how even if he was admired by everyone as a superhuman and all of that, but he never identified with the image that the collective mind had created, and he remained humble and egoless. And then he adds, in fact, he spoke of a grotesque contradiction between what people consider to be my achievements and abilities and the reality of who I am and what I am capable of. And then to end the chapter, there were few lines. In a genuine relationship, there is an outward flow of open, alert attention towards toward the other person, in which there is no wanting whatsoever. That alert attention is presence. So he explains presence very beautifully, especially with respect to relations. And the last line in the chapter, and so the three predominant states of egoic relationships are wanting, thwarted wanting, which includes anger, resentment, blaming, complaining, and lastly, indifference. That's all. Those are the highlights I
Yeah,
had.
and I think thank you for sharing those highlights. It was like almost a revision of what we had read. So I just want to tell this to everyone that as we go deeper, we are just getting started with the book, and as we go further, we will be going much deeper into understanding the concept. So I remember the first time I read, like I heard the podcast, I was intrigued by the pain body episode. So it will be coming like it's the fifth chapter. So it's very differently explained. At least I had never heard it explained or shared in such a way, and I think we all go through it. So, so stay tuned, I would say, and just dive in a little deeper. I'm telling you, this book is going to help us all evolve a little differently by the end of it, for sure. So, lot of insight, lot of ideas that we are unaware of so far are going to like get seeded into us, and we'll be looking at things differently here on. So I would highly insist that be more involved in the process of and the journey of reading this book, and it will definitely help you transform to at least a certain extent from wherever we are right now. So I would highly insist that. And anyone want to share something quick,
Yeah,
we can share, and we can just close. Yeah, go
I
on, go on.
I'm not going to ask for you to discuss this today, but the one thing that indifference that was mentioned over here. So I never equated it with ego. I said that if you are showing indifference, that means that you're not being affected by it. So if I'm going to go and listen to the podcast and read through this, because I've not read through that, given that depth of thinking, but tomorrow I'd like someone to actually agree or share their view of whether, and I'm not even sure whether the author is relating indifference to ego or not. But that is what
In
got my,
fact, he just mentioned, na, Richa just read out that last line, right?
yeah. So it was that indifference is also a sort of ego.
Yes.
Yes.
In difference when we are
Okay.
separating someone, right? Like, see, like if like from my limited understanding, uh, all of the spiritual learnings that we have or anything, ultimate gist or the message is like we are all one, like types, right? So indifference is separating out. Indifference is when we separate out someone from ourselves or something. So that is a part of ego, as per the author also, and I
Oh,
think that's what I understand. And I think tomorrow the chapter is about the roles of ego. So I think that will be covered somewhere
covered.
in that, I'm
Okay. Yeah.
assuming, yeah,
So
because
yeah.
we'll be talking in depth about different roles that ego plays, right? So I think that will be covered somewhere, I feel.
Yeah,
So
and
my
a quick
concept.
answer.
Hanji.
Sorry, Sunita, a quick, answer that I have. I mean, maybe not an answer, but my point of view. Uh, so from my limited understanding, indifference is when you are lacking compassion for a particular person. So you might compassionately protect yourself from someone, right? If someone is not able to understand, and that's completely okay. But if you're indifferent, like you are like, okay, I don't care, what this person says, but you're not saying anything, but in your head, the energy is of being indifferent to their opinions and forming opinions also that oh, I don't care about this person's opinion, right? That is also arising from ego. And the answer to this is, I think, few pages ago, and I had also read this, I think it is tied to that because he says compassion arises when you recognize that all are suffering from the same sickness of the mind. Like once you realize that it's not that person's fault, like it's not personal. And he also shares quite a bit in this chapter that we have covered, like chapter 3. So when you get a chance, go through it, where he explains how ego is not personal. So I think all of that will help you understand why indifference is also an egoic behavior.
Okay. But you know what? I have dealt with situations is that if someone is constantly after you or trying to put you down or is demeaning you, then the best approach is, and you are in a situation where you cannot get out of. You can't say that, okay, like I cut off ties. So, so that was my uh, go to that, okay, be indifferent to this situation or the kind of rebuffs or abuse that you're facing. Now that, now is it my
Yeah,
ego talking or is
I
it
think
my way of handling the situation, better way of handling than rather having a shouting match or, stuff like that.
yeah,
That
but
is where. So
that's
let's not.
natural, right,
Uh,
Sunita?
hmm,
Like when we are going through something, it's natural, right? Like we do have some defense mechanisms, all of us, right?
yeah.
So we are eventually we want to protect ourselves, not just physically, but sometimes more mentally,
Emotionally, more emotionally, yes.
energetically and emotionally. We are always trying to we have this, right, like amygdala or whatever they say, like we have this fear based operations, like coming from our ancestors and everything. So we do have that mechanism, and that's completely okay. So even when I look back at my life, like when I see, I felt like when got married and I came into a new family, I think there were a lot of things that were so different than my old family and old patterns and the patterns in that this thing. But so obviously, I think even I experienced this, and I think it is because. But now when I look back, I can see when I reflect back, I can see that many places even I was operating through my sense of ego, which I was not unaware was aware at that point of time, uh, because even feeling that this is wrong about someone is coming from a place of the old beliefs that we are carrying from our own conditionings. But if I look back from a matured perspective, sometimes I feel ki, okay, maybe that was right, but I saw it as wrong because I was operating through a belief system that whatever I know is only right and whatever the other person is saying, that is wrong because of the indifference, right? Because I felt that this is different, but I couldn't accept it. But now if I look from a helicopter perspective, I feel ki that was just different. That may not be wrong, that could have been a different approach, and I would have been more receptive to it had my ego had not crept in at that point of time. So that's awareness, and we all rise through it, right? Like even today we may be operating through ego somewhere in our life, for sure, because we are humans and we are all normal human beings, we are not saints. But maybe going further, when we evolve further and we look back, we'll understand, okay, that was my ego. Like even like before I read this book, I was never aware of that even feeling superior, even feeling inferior could be ego. But now, when I look back at instances in my life where I had felt inferior, I think that is covered in the next chapter. So, feeling shy or all those things, I was somewhere. If we think, or when we felt very very hurt, and as we read about today, na, like as we talked about that, how does this happen to me? We all has gone to that victim mode, right? Some point or the other. So all that was a place of ego. If we understand and look at it from that, like a fly perspective, as you shared earlier, that helps us get into a little in depth of understanding, and now we can rise above it, above that mindset or whatever. So that's how I look at it, and that really helps at times.
Oh, okay. So I have some, because this is what something that I am doing wrong maybe with my daughter. So my questions always arise that, okay, as a person, what I am doing, it is well within my change if I get the understanding. But if I'm unconsciously passing that mechanism of handling something that is not going for to my daughter, so that therein I need to check in and work on how to mend the situation. So I have been telling her that if a person is acting like this or using abusive language constantly, ignore that just. So that therein where my question arises. So I will go back, read to the listen to the podcast and get my understanding further as to this, and
Yes.
then maybe we'll discuss it tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe you'll get your own answers. Like Richa
Yeah.
found her own answers yesterday as we read through. So maybe we find our own answers. But I'll just since you mentioned this, I would just want to connect it with the part that we read today, like the waiter example, right? Like facts are facts. So if anything is happening wrong, then it is happening wrong. The only thing, so it's not like you don't address it or you don't highlight it and you just stay as a victim in that situation. So standing for yourself is never wrong. But when we make too much, when we, that's what I understand, okay, from the part that we read. So making it too much about ourselves, or like again coming to a place ki how can you serve me this soup, or how can this happen to me, that is where the ego. So and I think it's like a thin line between understanding this, and I think as we are able to get closer to understand this, I think we can be more composed and at peace, and we can make sure that the drama doesn't happen, or at least we can have some control over the drama that is possible in any given situation, I would say. So yeah, but obviously taking a stand for ourselves is never a wrong thing, I feel, and we cannot like consider it as an ego and just dismiss it. So yeah, that's how I look at it, and that's how what comes from my own understanding and learning of life. But just sharing, yeah.
Also, a
Anyone
real
wants to?
quick, yeah, a real quick addition. I'm not going to explain this, but something that uh, helped me understand the difference between, like, I think indifference, ignoring someone, all of these are different from non-reaction, which the author is trying to explain. And I think the subsequent chapters, he will try to get deeper into it. So that's when I think we'll be able to find, deeper answers.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
and I'm
Yeah.
I'm happy that we are all reflecting on our own life, because that's the purpose, right, of the book also. Like otherwise it will all remain theory if we are not able to relate it to our own lives and reflect and see through that, how this is applicable in which area of my life. I think uh, i think the book will not serve its purpose, and I think we are doing that already, so that's a great thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Also, Mansi, real quick, I know you will resonate with this. Yesterday, the part, like, and when I was also obviously elated towards the end when I mentioned to you all, right, that, oh, I found my answer, right, and I'll share, and then I shared today. But that part that when I was reading it, I had that same amazing feeling, and which we have shared in the book club for so many times, right? That I felt like that, again, alignment. There is nothing random. I was seeking the answer and I was reading that part. And again, this is, I know I'm using I, so
I
I,
have
I do
experienced it
recognize
so many times. Yeah.
I recognize there is ego in this, but yeah, it definitely felt good that, oh my God, I was seeking this, and there is nothing random. Uh, what you seek finds you.
Believe- what I believe and what I have come to understand is, like, however desperate we are for certain answers or knowing certain things, things only come to us at the right time, and maybe through the right source at the right place or whatever it is, because maybe by that time we are ready to receive. So even now, like sometimes when I have to offer some help and I know that I can definitely help someone, I sometimes now come just hold myself back. I just offer and I ask like, do you need help or something? But I don't go too much into helping or I used to do that before, but not now anymore because I understand this that not everyone is ready to receive, even if you are able to give that. So it's also
Mm.
like we are getting prepared for things. So it's like the opportunity meets something, right? Like there is a saying, uh, opportunity meets luck or something like that.
Prepared mind.
So yeah, what is it, Baniji?
Opportunity meets the prepared mind. The mind who is ready, prepared to take that. The prepared
Okay,
mind. Mind
yeah. So
ready
maybe our job is just to get prepared so that when opportunity knocks our door or when things come to us, we are well received. We're in the position to receive it very well. So that's what I believe now. And yeah, I think that really helps. So yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Anyone
pure.
else wants to share something? We are out of time,
It's
way
all,
out of time today, but yeah, it's okay. Like today was a different day.
just on the same
Anything?
analogy. See, the God is willing to give us what we need to have, but we should be willing to receive that, right? So,
Yes, and I feel we are also protected in that process. So like it's not like there is nothing to be sad or sulk about it because for example if you go to a gym, you cannot directly lift a weight of like some high kgs, right? Like there, it's a process. You're getting ready. The muscles are getting built. So we need to be ready to be able to. So as one of my mentors used to say this, like so we can take a lot of load and we can do a lot of things, but first we need to evolve into a tree for that, right? A plant cannot take all that load. If all the load or whatever, like you can sit on a branch of a tree, but if someone just tries some heavier like organism tries to like climb on a plant, that plant will die. It will get broken. So first we need to give ourselves that time to become a tree. Then you can have a nest and everything for the birds and everything, and then you can, but till that there is a process and you have to embrace that. So I that's what I understand, and it's okay. So yeah, anything anyone wants to share? Suman, Pallavi, Shilpa, Dr. Hindi Sam, who have not spoken a lot, anything you want to share something, or we can otherwise call it a day? Anything?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I don't know whether it is relevant to topic or not, but as you all were sharing the example, just a small example came into my mind. Suppose we bought chips for our kids, and we say it's your chip, uh, uh, and then we ask him to share. It might uh, sound kids sharing that I am sharing my chip. But when we say no, this is share pack and you have to eat with sharing with everyone of it, then this ego might not pop up. Maybe if I'm able to convey what I want to convey.
No, I'm not, I'm actually trying. No, yes, sorry. Yes, you are able to convey, but I'm just trying to, maybe I am not able to take the right meaning out of it, but trying to just think through. Maybe you're saying that you only gave that chips, right? So basically, you can also say that it's mine, but when the kid gets it, it becomes that kid's. So when you ask that kid to share it, so that's the confusion, right? Like that's what you wanted to clear.
And we buy suppose matlab a popcorn packet in a movie or say then it's usually tendency to give everyone his own packet and not to share, and when the kids is sharing when we are sharing, then the ego pop up, okay, I am sharing something that belongs only to me.
Okay, now I get it. So basically, you're talking about that part of the ego, maybe where we feel we are superior, for doing
Exactly.
something good also. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true, right? Like that's what happens when with service. So many people who give things in charity need not give it from a place of service. They give it from a place of ego. So he basically mentioned this, right? He mentioned this somewhere. There was this line. I think Richa highlighted that ego in religion can be used. Religion can be used to serve ego or to serve something,
Truth,
right?
truth,
Truth.
truth. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
religion can be so. You see, there are so many things, riots and everything happen. There's so many egoic things that happen on the name of religion, right? It's right and wrong and things like that. They all come from a place of ego, come from a place of superiority. So that's what it is, right? Like this, and as you mentioned in the very beginning of the book, that this is a very experiential learning. So whatever we learn from this book or whatever we relate, although we are discussing it here, but it is going to be a very different experience for each one of us, based on our own understanding and wherever we are placed in our life as of now. So for every one of us, the ego and everything is going to be very, very different. So very beautiful example. In fact, you shared it very nicely that yes, it does happen, right? When we give something to someone, there is a feeling of superiority within sometimes, and if that is the case, then yes, that is ego. So I have seen this that many people always want to be the givers, but even in fact I come from a family where my parents and all of my like even ancestors, my grandparents and all of them, we were very giving is a very natural this thing in that runs in the family. So giving but when I now when I look back, I also see that always just giving and not able to receive is not a good thing. So you should be give as well as receive equally. That is where our ego is kept in check. Otherwise, if we are just wanting to give, that is where we want to be superior to someone, and we don't like to be receiving because we feel ki receiving is keeping us less or making us feel uh, less than someone. So how can I receive? How can that comes from a place of ego again. So since we're talking about ego all the time, so if we are not comfortable receiving and only wanting to give, that means you want to have an upper hand on someone. And yes, that might come from a place of ego, but what is coming from which place can only be understood by that person, because it is more about the intention that you have in your heart or within, right? So nobody can really actually gauge it as such. Maybe people can guess it, but that can again be an assumption. So only the person who's giving knows from what place is giving. Some might just give out of joy, out of care, out of the feeling of sharing and the joy that you get out of it. But some might give because, oh, I have it and you don't have it, from that place. So that may be ego. You never know. Like it's all very subtle, right? We can't really identify it as such on a very superficial level. So it goes very deep. But yeah, that's a different perspective altogether. Thank you for bringing it out. So yeah,
See, the giving
thank
has
you.
to be from the heart, unconditional. What I think is,
Yeah, and I love the line where how Richa also highlighted it, right? There was this one line where he mentions maybe or may not be. Richa, you remember that line where you read that this can come from a place of ego, maybe or may not be, because only that
Hmm.
person knows, or maybe even that person
Yes.
don't know. Like what is he
Yeah,
doing? He's
like,
doing from
like
this place.
even with stating the fact, right, that light travels faster than sound. So you know that not only it is true, you also know that it is like you are right, And then he is explaining that does this, like still stating this, does this come from a place of ego? And yes, to your point, like, that's what the author is saying that, oh, maybe, but it's possible, but it's not like that's not the only outcome or whatever, right? I think the words that he had used were
Yeah,
really nice, but not for sure, basically, right? It
yeah.
was just
So
a
for your
probable.
example, yeah, probable, yeah. So for your example,
Mm.
Pallavi, that will only that can only be identified by the person who's giving the popcorn. So we cannot
Okay.
assume it. So what place the person is giving can only be known by that person itself, or maybe even that person may not know it because maybe they're not aware of the concepts that we are discussing right now. So it's all like evolutionary phase. It's
Yeah, and
okay.
he said, I found it possibly, but not necessarily, is what he said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Same way, same applies to you, Pallavi. Possibly, but not necessarily. It can come from a place of ego, or it cannot. You never know.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it kind of creeps in very, in every small thing that we do. So yeah, it was a very nice example that you gave, Pallavi. I think it helped us understand that how it
So,
can creep in even in the smallest of things that we are doing, right? Like as an example, even right now. I'm going to take book club example, right? Because we are doing this 5 days a week. And when it comes to shares, like if I'm saying this because at times I've caught myself, I'm being very honest. Early on, like a few years ago or months ago, sometimes, me wanting to share something, like I used to be impatiently waiting at times that, oh, these are the things I want to share. And I would focus so much on that I'm not focusing on the present, right? Like when someone else is sharing. And I caught myself on that, right? And that's coming from a place of ego because I want to share because I want to say something or I want to share. It's the focus is on me doing something and that is the जो हमारा हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कर्ता भाव बहुत आ जाता है फिर कि मैंने किया I did so much good same thing as I think the charity वाले example में भी कि ओ मैं अच्छा करती हूँ वैसा right but यही if it comes from a place as an example right that oh a lot of people have not read this chapter and I have highlighted few things when if we have the time then we can go over these and we'll go over the highlights right and then you share it from the perspective that okay few people have missed it and I have highlighted something it can be of use but not impatiently waiting that, oh my God, I have so much to share, right? And I was very aware of this today, at least. I'm not saying that I'm able to achieve this every day because I'm human and not a saint, as Mansi also said, right? That we all are evolving slowly. And it's a hard journey, and but it creeps in, the ego creeps in every action that we are trying to do. And I catch myself doing this every now
so
and then.
I just remember a beautiful example that once I saw in a drama that we had seen long back. It was some psychological. There was a lot of psychological reflections in that drama. It had that base. So it was basically a story of a guy who is working on himself, like who is alcoholic, and the whole journey was of him becoming sober. And it was a beautiful. And at the end when he changes and he transforms, there was one of this reflection that he shares, where he shares that I just caught myself in so many places. He mentions that about mindfulness also. He mentioned that even while washing the dishes, I feel so beautiful. I was just engrossed in just seeing the foam and just playing with it and all of that. So that was more of a mindfulness example. And then this one example, which is very much in alignment with what we just are talking about. He shares, I just observed myself that even while I'm handing out a pen to someone, I'll make sure that the brand of the pen is visible to the other person. So such a subtle thing, right? Like this catching ourselves is very important. So nobody can identify it, but it's basically it's like we only know, right, what is within, what is going on within us, and we can also catch ourselves if we are in that much of awareness. So he just highlights, like, I just caught, just how Richa mentioned right now, na, he mentions at the end where he reflects upon his own journey. He says there is so much ego, like it again he's talking about same, maybe he did not use that word or something, but just basically like when even when we do the small gestures, how do we do them makes a lot of difference. Like for example, like as he mentioned, like when I'm handing out a pen to someone also, I'm making sure that the brand has been seen, that the name is comes first, and then you see that name and then you take the pen from me. So it's such a small gesture, but that has a place of ego, because when you want the brand to be visible, you want to show how expensive that is, how better that is, or whatever, like everything follows through. So I just remembered that example, so just shared, maybe that adds some highlight for us to reflect upon our day to day things when we are operating through small situations, and that's how we understand and evolve through, right?
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful example.
So, okay, we had a great discussion today. I was not expecting it to go this long actually, because we were initially struggling to even have conversation around it, because most of them were not ready or not read the book, or yesterday were not there. But okay, it just went good. So thank you everyone for all your time and staying still this long, and for sharing all these beautiful insights and bringing such a wonderful conversation in place. So yeah, tomorrow we'll start with the fourth chapter and we'll go deeper into this, and I'll share the podcast also. I would highly insist go through the podcast, because I feel they will help us more than the chapters and the reading, to understand it better, the concepts better, at least to certain extent. So please do that. And you can just listen through as you are just doing some other work or something also. It's very easy to listen to a podcast. Yeah, Sunita, you want to say something?
No, just wanted to thank everyone and have a great day. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you everyone. Chalo, bye bye. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Have a
Thank
great
you
day.
so
Bye.
Tomorrow we'll
much.
be
Bye.
stick
Thank you
with
so
tomorrow
much. Have a
onwards
great
we'll
day.
be stick
Have
with
a
them.
great day. Thank you so much for your
Yes.
time, for being
Bye.
Bye.
here. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Bye. 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 See you.